Retro Hangover is supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McCarnes, Tony G, Tom the Superhero, Stud Still Smash the Milkman, Raging Demon, Mast Keaton, Lucas from Game Over Hell, Ozzy Garcia, JC, Megan Caruso, Rick Firestone, Dave Jackson, Jenny E, Retro Overdrive, Soha the Emperor, Storm Beagle, Matt aka Stormageddon, Pete Ross and Van Fernal from Super Garbage Day, Randall Quiggle, Keith Gasper, the Retro Vixen, Eric Guess, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands podcast, Ash Event, Alan Bingham, Mike the Rep from Backbreaker Gaming, Ryan Player One, Alt, Low5 Alex, Renner Dreaming, Omi, Makeshift Money, and Sega Boy 7. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated.
Open your ears and crack some beers. You are listening to the most recent episode of Retro Hangover.
Retro and classic gamers, welcome to the podcast where we jump joyfully, just joining jolly joggers, juggling, jiggling jumbos. This is Retro Hangover. I am your co-host, Chris Copleen, with special guest, B. Ross from Super Garbage Day. And, as always, your host, Shane Robbit Jump Dick
I don't even know if I have a clever joke for this one. I should have been better prepared. I don't know, something about carrots. That's what I got.
What are you going to do with those carrots?
If you have to ask, you can't afford it.
To watch it? Do you have an OnlyFans?
Oh, only hairs. But it's like
only hairs.
Yeah.
So unshaven.
No, like hair as in like HARE. It's a rabbit joke, Chris.
I'm making one too. Hi, B. Ross. Welcome to the Retro Hangover podcast. Do you have an only hairs?
Yeah, I'm all natural, but you guys know I'm half Italian. It's mainly hairs.
I mean, any attempt at fixing that will end up in broken machinery.
Absolutely. The funny joke is my wife's an esthetician. She waxes for a living. But no, so I'm keeping it Italian.
Has she ever
I'm not touching that.
I say well, apparently she probably isn't either.
That sounds like it.
Has she ever attempted? Has she just been like, please let me just this once?
Oh, dude, every day. Specifically my butthole. Yeah. I don't know what it is. She's like obsessed with wanting to wax give me a Brazilian. And I'm like, no, man. It's like,
no, you're Italian.
I'm like a minotaur. Like I don't grow chest hair, but I mean, everything else, man, it's like I'm wearing a suit, gorilla suit.
That is like a gorilla.
I guess, yeah. Let me just start with just my body hair. Everybody knows now.
Yeah. If you want to know more about B. Ross's body hair, go check out the Super Garbage Day podcast. He'll let you know. He does Twitch streams too. He might show you. Anyway, welcome everybody to another edition of the Retro Hangover podcast. As you see, we're going to cover the PlayStation 1 classic action platformer that is known as Jumping Flash, where you control a rabbit and play with carrots. Not really, but there are carrot-related items. There are one-ups. Glad to have B. Ross joining us for that today. But as is tradition, as we are wont to do, we like to talk about the games that we have been playing lately, and we always start with our guest. So, B. Ross, what games have you been playing lately?
Earthbound on the Super Nintendo. For my birthday, my wife got me a legitimate copy of Earthbound, which I thought I would have never owned in my entire life. Because I'm on this quest right now, kind of like Keith from the main quest. Shout out to collect all of my old games and replay them. And so I didn't think I was going to get that one. I did. And so I made it a promise I have to beat it. I didn't beat it as a kid. And I'm having a blast, man. It's addictive. The game's great, man. I know I'm a big stan of Earthbound, but yeah, I love it. It's like my comfort zone right now.
Nice.
I like Earthbound. We've played Earthbound.
Yeah. Your neighbor's a dick, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Fuck them. All right, Shane, what have you been playing?
Man, nothing. I got nothing like even cool to talk about. Like even the fillers where I'm usually just like, yeah, it's also Diablo because Diablo. I ain't even been doing that. I just nothing. I got no time. I got no time for anything. But honestly, outside of, doing stuff for the show, it's just like maybe a mobile game here and there when I can like fit in the time. But right now I'm trying to will myself to begin Persona 4 because I know I have to do that. Yes, Golden specifically.
Yeah.
Also, at the time of this recording, I feel like this is apropos since we're talking about it now, but our lovely patron and very good longtime friend of mine, Lyle, sent me a DM in Discord with nothing more than a screenshot of the beginning of the Persona 5 Wikipedia article that states it is a 2016 role-playing game.
He did.
I take this as a threat.
Yeah.
Because this just means that that's coming like next year, and I don't know. I don't know if I have the strength.
He sent me the same thing, by the way, just so you know.
Oh, great. Okay, well, I guess it wasn't just me.
So at least it's not Persona 5 Royal because that has extra content.
Great. Yeah, because it needs it, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So take solace in
I thought you were going to say a 2016 hour game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. God help the Retro Hangover podcast and your Persona content. I'm sure Lyle is the only one who harbors these feelings against us. I know that's not true. I know there's some other high tier patrons that enjoy this. We love you. Just so you know, I have to say that.
we are financially obligated to say that.
Oh, we do though. We do. Just wish I had more time. And that's kind of what gets to my thoughts here. The Legend of Dragoon drained me. It just completely drained me. I don't really want to play games right now. So that's kind of where I'm at. Fortunately, I was able to play this game. I've started playing the next game, which is Psychonauts. I'm trying to get into it. It's super early, so I'm gonna say my feelings for it. I don't want to have any judgment on it. It's like I'm only an hour and a half into it, so there's nothing there yet. But I did play Dragon Quest V on stream for the PlayStation 2. Pleasantly surprised with how good that game looked. I did not think it I just thought it'd be a cheap up like 3D model kind of change to it. I think it looks incredibly charming. I think Square Enix did a really good job, and I would love to see a port of that on modern consoles someday. That would be amazing because they're porting everything else under the sky. I'm happy about that because I love Saga, and like every Saga game is now on a modern platform. So why can't we get some more Dragon Quest? Because we haven't heard like anything from that since Sugiyama died, and now Toriyama's dead too. So it's not looking too good for the DQ crew there. I've also played some Virtua Racing, Time Warner Interactive's Virtua Racing for its Christian name. No, it's Time Warner Interactive's VR Virtua Racing for the Sega Saturn. Because
that is a mouthful.
Yes, I was actually pleasantly surprised, as I am a big Virtua Racing hater, and I walked away from that game not being one. So look forward to that on IO Saturnalia down the line. I was quite pleasantly surprised with that version of Virtual Racing. But that's all I've really been playing because I've just been completely drained on video games since Legend of Dragoon, because that took me 60 plus hours to beat. And I wanted to hate life for a little bit, but back to the grind. Why we're professionals.
professional podcasters.
I feel like if people haven't gone and listened to our Legend of Dragoon episode, that seems like a pretty scathing indictment all on its own. You're just like, yes, this game put me off of video games.
I don't think it's a bad game. It's just I'm done. Like every waking moment of my life was poured into playing that fucking game. Like, oh, I have some free time. What I'm going to do? Dragoon. Legend of Dragoon. You want to have fun with your kid? No, Dragoon. You want to hang out with your friends? No, Legend of Dragoon. You want to edit content? No, Legend of Dragoon. I made it.
But at what cost?
Made it. Exactly. And I'm talking about last week's episode or 2 weeks ago. This is the state of this podcast, everybody. We are crumbling.
I can't tell if you like the game or not. I guess we'll have to listen.
Yeah, I guess you would. I mean, I hope people already have.
I guess, yeah, we're in the future.
We are in the future.
Now in the past.
Yes. Very astute. You're a very deep thinker, P. Ross says here. He is, God, I'm sounding like a dick. I am a dick. Anyway, hey, Shane, we have a section that we like to call the brief history. Should I roll my R on that? Should I do a brief history?
Yeah, only the first one, though.
Okay, the brief history.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, there it is. And if you could, we are ready to talk about some Jumping Flash. So let's get into it with the brief history of that game.
The 3D platformer genre may have been revolutionized by Super Mario 64, but it was far from being the first of its kind. While many argue that Mario 64 was the first to truly get it right, the question remains, was it really? Or could well-crafted, enjoyable, three-dimensional platforming experiences be found before the Nintendo 64's release? Interestingly, Sony's early attempt at delivering a 3D platformer for its debut PlayStation console might not have achieved everything Mario 64 did, but it undeniably marked a significant step toward refining the genre, getting closer to what many would call right. Development of this game began around 1993, with Japanese studios Exact and Ultra tasked with creating a mascot-driven platformer that could rival iconic characters like Mario and Sonic. Exact focused on designing the game engine and gameplay mechanics, while Ultra handled the narrative, cutscenes, and character designs. The team settled on a mechanical rabbit named Robbit as the protagonist, aiming for an unconventional sci-fi aesthetic. Beyond these creative choices, development progressed smoothly without notable hurdles, an unusual feat for one of the earliest true 3D platformers. The game, later titled Jumping Flash, debuted in 1994 under the working name Springman as part of a PlayStation tech demo. It officially launched in Japan on April 28th of 1995, followed by releases in Europe on September 29th and North America on November 2nd of the same year. Critics praised its innovative gameplay, earning it an aggregate score of 84% on Metacritic and accolades such as Game Fan's PlayStation Game of the Year award. Commercially, however, it performed modestly, selling around 300,000 units globally, 210,000 of which were solely in Japan. Internationally, its impact was limited, but the success was sufficient to spawn a franchise with 2 sequels, Jumping Flash 2 and Robbit Mon Dieu, both for the PlayStation 1. Despite its niche status in gaming history, Jumping Flash left a lasting legacy. It was later re-released on digital platforms for PS3, PS4, and PS5, ensuring its innovative contributions to early 3D platforming remain accessible to new audiences. And that is your brief history of Jumping Flash.
All right. Thank you, Shane. I thought that this game was a better seller until I got to looking at the price for this game. B. Ross, I know you're a collector too. I tried to find a copy of this game just out of curiosity. It's like $150 complete. So I think I looked up the sales number for North America. It's about 50,000 copies. I thought it was going to be more than that. I thought this game had a bigger impact and kind of a broader following just based off what you see online from time to time about it. It feels almost like this is a, dare I say it, hidden gem. It's really not all that incredibly notable. I'm just in the circles I'm in. I hear a lot about it. So it's surprising that, I guess maybe it's not surprising that it did as poorly. I say poorly. 50,000 in 1995 wasn't horrible. It wasn't great, but it did the way it did, considering how people talk about it nowadays. B. Ross, we're on camera and I can see B. Ross. He's kind of nodding his head. Yeah, what's your thoughts there on that?
It makes sense that it's more expensive because it was a launch title, but also it was a big box launch title. So I don't believe it was ever re-released as a bestseller, obviously for those reasons. But it's also to get a complete in box copy of those big quasi plastic, quasi cardboard PlayStation games. They're not cheap these days. It actually doesn't really matter which one they are. But yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I too was surprised that it wasn't quite as popular because you think it would be, but I mean, it did garner a sequel at least. Or two.
It did. Probably because of the Japanese success. And Robert Mon Dieu only came out in Japan. It didn't come out beyond that. So I think the Japanese success really propelled this series to being a franchise of sorts. And it wasn't a launch title. It was because the launch of the Sony PlayStation was September 9th, 1995. So it came out a little less than a month after it. And if you look for a complete in box copy of the game, I found two different long boxes. Like there's three different versions, three different SKUs of this game, I guess, for lack of a better term. It has the Saturn case long box. It has that PlayStation specific, like ribbed for your pleasure long box. And then it has the jewel case.
I did not know it had the jewel case.
There's a variety of different versions.
I didn't know that.
You have the jewel case?
I did not know it had the, it was released, and you said it only sold 50,000 copies. I'm very surprised there were so many different variations.
Yeah. Well, I've seen it. It doesn't mean it was. Like people could be taking the manual and sliding it into those glass Saturn cases and saying it's complete in box. I don't remember it being released back then. I guess that's the good segue into our own personal experiences, which I'll kind of kick off here because I'm kind of already on it. But I didn't remember this game coming out. I mean, I was only 10 when the PlayStation came out. I was definitely I was looking forward to the N64. I was a Super Nintendo guy, a Sega Genesis guy. I barely even noticed the Saturn came out. I knew more about the 32X than the Saturn during this time frame. So to not know anything about Jumping Flash makes sense. I think if there's any PlayStation game I knew anything about at this time, it was probably Battle Arena Toshinden.
Mm-hmm.
That was the extent of it. Yeah, Jumping Flash was something I heard about much later. It might have been, I don't know why, like first people I think about when I think of Jumping Flash is My Life in Gaming. I think I just think Corey playing Jumping Flash. I don't know why that's a thing. I think that's where I first heard of it. It might have been through them. It might have been through GameSack, some YouTube influencer for sure. That's what I know. And that's when I started noticing like there's a cult following for this game. I need to look into this. And I think a couple of years ago, Shane, you're playing Robbit, the third one, Robbit Mon Dieu on stream. It's like, oh, wow, this looks like a lot of fun. I've known about it. I've had it on my PS3 as a digital copy. It was probably on sale one time and I just bought it on a whim. But I did not play this game at all until recently. How about yourself, Shane?
Okay, so I think that's like the second time in the past few weeks that you said that I played the third one on stream. I have no memory of that. I swear I played the first one.
Maybe.
I don't remember playing the third one.
Because you called it, I remember you calling it Robbit Mon Dieu. Or maybe I'm getting streams mixed up watching another creator. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I mean, I don't know. It was long enough ago at this point that we could both be right. Who knows? I don't know.
Sure.
Point is I had no awareness of this game whatsoever. To be honest, I don't think it would have been one that I would have even looked at like with interest when I was, and I suppose I'm talking as though everybody already knows the story because I've told it a number of times, but in case this is your first time, I never owned a PlayStation, so I would rent one from our local video rental shop back when you could rent consoles like that. It was a regular thing. So I would occasionally rent one. And even if this was there and available, I don't know if it'd be something that I would pick. Like if I was looking, I'm like, okay, what am I going to play on this PlayStation? I only have it for like the weekend. Probably going to go with like Resident Evil. I don't think I was going to pick Jumping Flash. So
makes sense.
Yeah. Like I had no visibility into this whatsoever. And then I don't even know how it came about. Honestly, I think maybe when I was setting up my emulation stuff on my computer, I was trying to figure out like which PlayStation games I wanted to include because I didn't necessarily want to download every single ISO file for everything. And I guess as part of my research, this popped up as like a pretty good one. And I was like, I've never heard of this at all. And I think that's how I ended up playing it. I think it was literally just like a random pick one night. I was like, what are we going to stream tonight? And I was like, I don't know. This thing is about a fucking rabbit. That's weird. Let's do this. And here we are. So that's pretty much the extent of it.
All right, B. Ross, you saw this episode. You said this was one that looked good for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy you did because it's been long overdue for you to be on the show. But what is your personal experience with this? What made you choose Jumping Flash?
Well, I think also one of the reasons why I thought it was a launch title was because this was one of the two games I first received when I got my PS1 for Christmas of that year, of the launch year of 1995. This game, I like correlate directly with the PlayStation 1 because, you know, my neighborhood, it's really funny. My neighborhood, you know, my house became really popular because none of the kids got a PlayStation, and I begged my parents to death to get me one and did all the crap where I traded in my Super Nintendo and all, just get rid of everything towards it. So they did. They got me a PlayStation, and the two games I got was Battle Arena Toshinden and Jumping Flash. Because I had it and I was boasting and telling everybody at school, my house was so popular that week, especially because we were all still out of school because of Christmas break. My dad had the kids lining up out front and coming in two at a time to play the PlayStation. And what I would do is I was just like so proud. I was like, finally, I got to be like the cool looking rich kid, even though we all are super poor, you know? So I would start by showing the kids Jumping Flash to just blow their mind. And it's like a one player game. So they're like, cool. And then we'd go into Battle Arena Toshinden. And my mom had them on timers, and it was just so silly. So I have this like really funny memory tied to Jumping Flash. And I played the living crap out of it when I was a kid. So when you brought that up, I was like, oh yeah. And I didn't realize that it was so unpopular. Like, and not in the sense of that it's bad, but I didn't realize that it didn't have, you know, I guess it does have a cult following, but yeah, I knew of this game day one. And then still to this day, that's really strong memories, my childhood. Even my dad thought it was like, wow, that's crazy looking, you know? And he was proud about it too. He's like, that's money well spent, you know? But, yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. I thought you were going to say that he was having kids line up and they was just like selling tickets at the door.
He wouldn't have done that. But
entrepreneurial spirit right there.
You got to make that money back for buying that PlayStation.
Yeah, you know, that's not a bad idea. Just charge them to play. But then I wouldn't have been able to play. It would have been a problem. So yeah, all the kids in my neighborhood knew about Jumping Flash as well via me.
You started the cult.
Yeah.
Were you on the West Coast at that time?
Yes. It all took place in California.
It's all coming together.
That's why you have so many West Coasties that probably love this game. I think it's more West Coast. And I think that's you. You did it.
Yeah. It's synonymous with California, Jumping Flash.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. 1-to-1. No question.
Totally.
Let's get into the plot here after our own stories have been discussed. And I have the manual here, and it's not as long, imagine this, as The Legend of Dragoon. By the way, back-to-back Sony first-party titles on the PlayStation. We're going to be called Sony ponies, probably by the end of this year. Look forward to it. All right, so this is what the manual says the story is before we give our thoughts. And I will just go with what it says. It starts out with jump, quote, N, go. Baron Aloha's greed! Exclamation point. The time, far in the future. The place, deep in space. The problem, vanishing real estate. We are talking about California. Viperous Baron Aloha has cooked up a diabolical scheme. He is stealing our planet piece by piece. The evil astrophysicist has excavated vast chunks of the Earth, enslaved the inhabitants, and shuttled the whole works off into space as his own galactic continents. Greedy Aloha has turned our serene world into Swiss cheese to make his own private resorts. Can anybody or anything stop him? And that's the story. You got to go stop the evil genius Baron Aloha from creating resorts out of a mouse planet. Rabbit planet? Rabbit planet. So what do we think of the plot? B. Ross, we'll start with you. What do you think of this game's plot?
It's so silly. Baron Aloha is like one of the coolest names ever, though. I mean, that's worthy of being a gamer tag, you know. The thing is, what strikes me first about this game and the plot, like in our show, we do something similar where we do like the first impression kind of thing. Very, very silly, high energy, very Japanese. And the plot is very succinct, extremely Japanese as far as I'm concerned, without sounding racist. I think it's fantastic, and it's all you really need to be told because the game itself doesn't take itself serious. So it would be weird for it to have this long drawn out storyline when it's just this crack job wearing a Tommy Bahama shirt is wanting to separate parts of the world for some kind of space company theme park, and that's all I needed when I think I was 12 when this came out. So to me, it's perfect 1995 Japanese 3D platforming plot.
Shane?
Yeah, go stop this puka shell wearing motherfucker.
Yeah.
No, I mean, yeah, it's great, man. Like it's straight to the point, it's keeping with the the surprisingly pervasive like eco terrorism like message of like the mid to late 90s. It's very Captain Planet, but with robot rabbits. I'm for it. It's great. Sometimes you don't need, really serious, convoluted, involved plot. You just need a motivator. That's it. It's just like, hey, this grandpa's a dick. And he's trying to like take all your planet stuff. You should go stop him. Do carrots about it. And I'm like, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. As for myself, like as a quasi weeb, I used to be full weeb. I've now transitioned to quasi weeb. I've downgraded.
Congratulations.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
You're in your recovery.
I don't know. I want to be full weeb. I miss my weeb days. But I do appreciate the very Japanese style plot. It's just the complete silliness, the like just nonsensical. Why am I a rabbit fighting a dude in a Hawaiian shirt who's an old guy and he's kind of a clown? I love that. And when you say this is all you need when you're 12, dude, that's all I need when I'm 40. This is all I need. Like, do I need like complex plot points about who the Robbits' mother is and what Baron Aloha did to her on a hot summer night 20 years ago? No, I don't. I don't need that. It'd probably make for a very funny side quest. Maybe that's what Jumping Flash 2 is about. I hope it is. I have no idea. But this is really all I need. It's dumb. You just go fight bad guy's bad guy. You are a good guy. And you don't really need to know anything more than that. And I'm happy that it's like that. Very much so. Especially after a 60-hour JRPG. I don't really think there's much more to talk about with the story here.
It's really a social commentary on boomers hoarding all of the real estate.
It is.
And
True.
The Robbits are us, the millennials.
Yes, we are the Robbits.
Yes.
When we were 13-year-olds. They were trying to let us know that when we grew up and it was time to buy a house, that the Baron Alohas of the world were just going to hoard it all themselves.
You collect money. You have to go through and get all the money in your carrots, right?
Yeah, exactly. And we didn't take that warning seriously.
No.
Nope.
Jumping Flash, we are sorry.
Yeah. Robbit tried to warn us, and here we are with Bezos Aloha.
Bezos Aloha. Oh, man. Elon Aloha actually kind of rolls off a little better.
Was there an Amazon level?
No, I don't think so.
Surprisingly,
No, there wasn't.
I don't think there was a jungle level.
No, there wasn't.
I mean, the cave, the first person part could be kind of jungly, I guess.
Kind of. Yeah. Anyway, that's a good segue into the gameplay, where just so everyone understands what the gameplay is, before I kick it over to Shane and we do our roundtable here. You are as we have already said, a mechanical rabbit robot called a Robbit, and it's in a first person's perspective. You move around in an environment just like a 3D platformer, except it's first person, and you have to go find various parts to move on to the next level, jet parts. And you can do this by jumping around and shooting. So you have a blaster that you shoot enemies with. And you can do double jumps with interesting platforming mechanics that I'm sure we're going to talk about. But that's kind of the long and the short of it. Find the parts and get to the exit. And sometimes you can't jump around, as B. Ross was mentioning, is that sometimes you're in a cave and it's more of a first person shooter at that point. But Shane, let's start with you on the gameplay here. What's your initial thoughts?
My initial thoughts going into this game was that this should not work. It should not work at all. Because like, if you think about it, traditionally, first person and platforming generally are like oil and water. Like a lot of the times people really don't like that combo. It's not done particularly well. It can be disorienting. It's not a good time. For as great as the original Half-Life is, the sections where they have you do platforming are probably some of the weaker spots. I'm not saying they did it poorly, but it's hard to pull off well. It really is. And I gotta be honest, I was surprised going into this with the notion that you are in a first person perspective where the entirety of the game is quite literally you are a rabbit hopping up and down around trying to jump different places. I'm like, that sounds like a recipe for throwing up all over your monitor. I don't know if that's going to work well or if it's just going to be as frustrating as hell, but man, I gotta tell you, it's actually a lot of fun and the controls are pretty good. It handles actually pretty well. I was pleasantly surprised. It's a pretty short game. I mean, I recently just finished the whole thing on stream, so that was about 2 hours. I think I might have gone a little bit over just to finish it, but roughly 2 hours. So not a huge ask, but in that time, like, I genuinely had fun. It caught me off guard because it really actually plays a lot better than I expected it to, particularly in the time frame that this game was released. So because it was so early in the 3D era, I suppose you could say. So no, it was an overall pleasant surprise. I don't know if I have too much more to say on that. I mean, it's a kind of a collectathon at its heart, really, with some combat. I guess from an FPS perspective, the shooting's not too bad either. It is interesting to try to hit jumping or flying targets, though, because a lot of the time you got to try to like time your jumps to shoot them. But yeah.
Interesting thing. Apparently you can look and shoot.
Yeah. Good fucking luck with that. Like, okay. I figured out way late into my playthrough that you could actually like free look, pseudo free look. I did not find it particularly useful. I think there might have been one or two occasions where I used it to figure out like where I needed to go next, because the mini map that you have, right? It gives you that indicator of like where the collectibles are that you're supposed to be grabbing, but it's only going to show you when you get within a certain distance of it in the first place. And so there were a couple of times where some of the bigger levels, I was like kind of unsure where to go. And I did use the free look to at least kind of figure out possible avenues, but I mean, I guess if you're standing still and you use the free look and then shoot, that's doable. I would be impressed if somebody could pull off jumping, looking, and shooting with the way the control scheme is, though.
I can understand that. And B. Ross, what's your initial thoughts on gameplay?
I think it really nails, this ideal of being in a mech with its tank controls. And, just as Shane was saying, the controls hold up really well in a situation where it should be super jank. I think that it really, I love everything about the controls because they work perfectly, even though you're forced to look down when you jump, if you double jump. Obviously, you have to do that because there's so many like pitfalls in the game. But I think it's actually pretty fluid, and revisiting it, just like Shane, like you can beat it in under 2 hours. It's very, very simple game, and you can practically speed run it if you want. But I really think that I'm surprised how well, being a person who does a show where I have to play a lot of old PlayStation and a lot of old, 3D games, how tight these controls really are compared to like games that came out later that were either, first person 3D or anything like that. I think that it's like I said, I was afraid at first that my nostalgia goggles were going to disappoint me. And I was pleasantly surprised that they haven't. Its controls are very tight. With the gameplay in general, though, it fits really well, and it's everything in it just is perfect. But as far as like visually, you can kind of tell where everything is, where you need to go, what you need to get. And a lot of it is like obviously height based. So, a lot of it's just you have to jump straight up and do your double jumps, and you can kind of figure out how to trick jump a little bit by hitting kind of a little bit of a wall and then replenishing your double jump. It just feels really good, It
does.
Yeah, and I feel like if you really wanted to like be a completionist, you could figure out the game really fast. I'm kind of surprised it doesn't have a community of speedrunners because it's got a little bit of that Mario 64ism where like if you get really good at it, you can just fly through a level in under like 20 seconds, possibly. Well, that's kind of ridiculous, but yeah, I agree completely with Shane on this.
And just so people understand, when we say like under an hour and a half or an hour, I mean, I have seen full playthroughs where it has been like a little over 2 hours, and that's going through the game twice, and that's how to get the like official full ending.
There's bonus levels too. I
did not do that because as I said, that the game is it's the same thing except the items are in a different location. There it is. For full disclosure, I did not do that for this playthrough. I also played on the PlayStation 4. That being said, this game is a testament to understanding the restrictions of the time. I like to really, at times, look at what a game was trying to do when it came out. And there was no Mario 64 at this time. And one of the comments that we got from in our pontifications, not to spoil it, I kind of am, is from your co-host, B. Ross from Van Fernal, who was saying that the Guinness Book of World Records hold this game as like the first true 3D platformer ever made. And so this was really a bunch of developers just trying to figure something out in a genre that was popular and trying to make it into a 3D setting. When you think about that, this game works, as I'm echoing Shane and B. Ross here, way better than you're probably going to expect it to. You're like, when you're jumping from platform to platform, you're like, this is kind of jank, but you do the double jump and you can look down. So it's like the developers understood that you had limitations in how the presentation was being made, and they had a compensation for that, so that I know where I'm going to land because I'm looking down and I can tell by my shadow where I'm going to be. And they were doing all of this without really having anything existing beforehand to inform them on whether or not they were doing this correctly. I think this is why when you get to the bosses are kind of crap.
Underwhelming.
They're not horrible, but they're not great. They are far from great because they were still figuring it out. But what this does make for are levels that really excel beyond what you're probably expecting for one of the earliest 3D platformers ever. Because I think when most people hear early 3D platformer, they're thinking like Croc, they're thinking Bubsy, and by the way, this is far better than Bubsy we could ever hope to be. But like they're thinking of platformers that really struggled to find an identity until Mario 64 came around, and a lot of those ingredients are already here because you are moving around fluidly in a 3D environment. It's just like, as B-Ross said, it's tank controls because you are a tank, you are a mecha. But I think that's a way for developers doing that was a way of them of trying to figure out how do we navigate this space but have an excuse for it. Like, why is everything so tanky? Well, you are a tank. Why do you have to look down? Well, he's a rabbit and he's jumping and he's looking down. And it knew the assignment and it had an in-lore excuse for everything that you're doing that would be awkward in today's world. It's almost like they were a little prophetic on how we would retroactively and retrospectively look at 3D platformers. And it's so genius. When I was going through, it's like, this game is, it feels like this was an indie game released last week. That's what it felt like. It felt like an indie game that was trying to mine the nostalgia of the era. But no, this was a game that was legit made in the earliest days of the PlayStation. That impressed me the most. Those cave levels do really take it back a bit, because I do think they don't play to its strengths. I think the developers were fans of Doom and first-person shooters of that era. That definitely rings true to that. And they wanted to throw those in as like, oh, well, we can do this. And I wouldn't necessarily call it a collectathon either, because it's just find the items, get to the exit, which also happened in 2D platformers, more non-linear ones. And you could tell they were working with what they had in the past as well to inform them of what maybe this game should be. But overall, I'm just blown away by the thought process, the ingenuity, the innovation that the developers brought to the table here, and just how it can be a tight, controlling, fun experience today that doesn't alienate me or feel, oh, like this is just this way because that's old sauce. Like it feels like something any gamer today could pick up and feel fine with.
Also, you got to give it credit to that HUD is so amazing. Like, and how
the HUD
works so well with your controls. Everything has purpose and gravity to it that it's fantastic.
I do find it funny that I think either advertently or not, we've kind of turned collectathon into a little bit of a derogatory term.
No, it is, because it is.
I don't know. Some of them are okay. I listen. There are some things where I actually like a collectathon, but I think the when that kind of came to its like logical conclusion, to its peak, that is really when things got just totally egregious. I guess maybe it would be unfair to call this a collectathon. It was more for like a lack of a better term, just because, I mean, generally the entire purpose of the game is to collect things. So
sure. I do like how there's power-ups. I do like the fact that you have the various weapons and attacks, special weapons that you could use. I mean, they're pretty much just for bosses, if we're being completely honest here. I do like that they exist. I like the fact that defeating enemies gives you these items, because you can go through this entire game and not kill a single enemy if you don't want to. It's probably entirely possible. But if you do so, which you can do by shooting them with your blasters, which you can hold down for rapid fire, which is nice, thank you. Or you can jump on them, which also causes damage. There are items, and some of these items, they'll give you time back. They'll stop your time. They'll give you various, like I already said, various special attacks. And so there's some benefit into doing it and defeating enemies along the way, other than just, I just killed it to avoid taking damage, or I don't understand why this is here. Like, this is dumb. Why is this enemy here? I do appreciate that as well.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the ability to jump on enemies too, because I mean, granted, if I would have like read an instruction manual, or I probably would have known this. I'm that person who just, well, pun sort of intended, but jumped into the game without actually like reading anything about how to play it. But I really like that, just because it gives you that variation of how to approach combat should you choose to go into combat. And I mean, inevitably the boss fights, you're sort of, that's a foregone conclusion. But I actually really like it, because specifically with the bosses, because they're so big, I found it actually really satisfying to combine the two, to where you're kind of like you're trying to pogo on top of the boss to do damage, and you're just holding down the fire button at the same time. And actually, I thought that was really cool. That was a very satisfying way to fight those bosses. At least I felt it was.
Yeah, it is satisfying. Anything to add there, B. Ross?
Yeah, I think the game also promotes exploration pretty well, because the levels are pretty like sprawled out especially for the time. And there are just a lot of fun, silly areas that you can if you just find off the beaten path. Obviously, most of the enemies are just move around and shoot things at you, and some are spiked and what have you. But I find that if you really want to take the time to kind of go through the level, even though they give you a timer, but it gives you plenty of rope to beat the level, and plus you can get time power ups and what have you. I think that especially when the game came out, it really added more to this like wow factor of being like, not only does it look and control like next level for the time period, but also, like, oh, I go over here and now I'm in this like Sonic the Hedgehog style bonus area where I gotta pop balloons under a certain time or whatever. And I just think that, and there's so many funny little things in it, like that are level specific to the theming that are great too. Every level kind of introduces something new, I think, in a bit of its like mechanics. You've got the train or the Rainbow Road style one-way roads that make you fly. You've got air dynamics. You've got your slippery ice level. You got a lot of these different things. I just think that it really went above and beyond for being like one of the first, right? But I do echo your sentiment about how those first-person levels are like really kind of downshift the game, and I don't think that they should have really implemented them as their own levels. They should have been integrated into within the overall level, so you can go into that and then come out maybe to get some of the carrots, or we called them Jethros because that's what it looked like on our old CRT TVs.
Yes, yes, it wasn't just me.
Yeah, you thought that too.
I said it on stream. I was like, I swear that says Jethro.
Yeah, we always called them Jethros, but that was the only thing to me that I thought was bogged down. And it does seem like, well, they want to add some of that to the level to showcase, this new big bad system that can do 3D. But it just sucks because you're given so much freedom. Then you go into and luckily they only had 2 of those levels in the whole game, but you're just like, oh, now I'm like compressed and it's more linear. And I'm like, it's not as good. But other than that, yeah, the gameplay is fantastic for its time. And I love it.
That's a good point you bring up, because I do think that this game ultimately is kind of a tech demo. This game it feels like a genuine tech demo about what the PlayStation could do from a Japanese development perspective. This is we're moving over, like, especially the more anime Japanese developers at the end of the 16-bit generation this is how we're going to transition over into the 3D generation. And when you look at it then contemporaneously or retrospectively, whatever the correct term is, contemporaneously, I think, like Battle Arena Toshinden, like we brought up earlier, the game that you had with it and it was 2-player, like that's the game at the time I think people would rather play because that felt more like the tech demo. And it's for 1995. That game looked really good. It blew the pants out of Virtua Fighter. Not Virtua Fighter Remix, but it blew the pants off Virtua Fighter that came out on the Saturn originally. And like that was the main attraction. People were like, wow, this looks really good. But if I had to go back and if you put like knowing everything I know now, and I look at if I look at Battle Arena Toshinden, I look at Jumping Flash. Well, look at it now, I should more accurately say, man, I'd rather play Jumping Flash like 10 times out of 10. Like, and it looks significantly better. It controls better. It's faster. Like, it's more of a true demonstration of what the PlayStation was actually capable of, rather than the game everyone thought that's what the PlayStation was capable of. And I think that was also part of the mindset. I can't speak for them. I'm not them. But that was also part of the mindset the developers weren't going in with, is like, this is the showcase mascot platformer for Sony. It ended up being Crash Bandicoot, but this is what Sony wanted that to be. But it also went part and parcel with this is our tech demo. So you're getting a lot of that. So I think part of the reason that when you go off that beaten path, which by the way, once you learn that double jump and how to do it correctly, the entire world is like unlocked to you. Platforming becomes no issue. There is no challenge with platforming whatsoever, which you could view as a negative. But I think part of the reason they have it off the beaten path is kind of to be like, look at the Sony PlayStation's draw distance and what it can store in cache at these locations with no loading times. Like, look at this. And you could just seamlessly move back and forth in places. I think that's something that, I mean, we can kind of talk about when you get to graphics. It's kind of bleeding over that already, but just how the gameplay was so seamless with that at that time, I think, it's hard to really put into perspective because that's just something we expect nowadays. That wasn't something that you would get then. That's not something that would have blown your mind 30 years ago. That's just not something that would have happened. So I think there's some credit where credit is due as well. I know we're just like slobbing praise over this game, but I mean, it really does from a retroactive review, like perspective here, retrospective viewpoint here, because it did really accomplish so much and marrying the gameplay with what it wanted to present to the player in terms of the platform it was on. But I think, did we have anything else we want to talk about gameplay wise before we get to the presentation?
Yes, ice physics always suck. It doesn't matter what game they're in, and this is no exception.
Get good, because if you just jump and you land, it's fine.
Yeah, fine.
You just gotta learn how to manage your momentum, bro.
Until you slide
manage
right
your
off
momentum.
A ledge.
You wouldn't say that if it was Dark Souls.
Just saying. That's because Dark Souls was smart enough not to include ice physics.
Yet.
Don't put that on me, Ricky Bobby.
They put in mud physics.
Listen, he's got to put a swamp poison level in every single game he makes. I feel like that's punishment enough.
I think that's worse than ice physics. I'll take ice physics over swamp poison physics. But since I was talking about the graphical presentation, let's just get right into that. Let's talk about the presentation of this game. I already think I kind of said it looks great. I did play it on a PS4, which means I got HD, up res textures and all that good stuff. It sounds like both of you played this by the most legal of means. But if you played it on an original platform, go ahead and let me know what you thought. But if not, I'll just roll right over to B. Ross. B. Ross, what do you think about the graphical presentation?
I actually played it on the PS Classic because it was included on it.
Yes, it is.
Let me think. When I first saw the game, it blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. Mm-hmm. As I stated before, I showed this off to like my friends and everybody to kind of specifically boast about like with the system I had, and I think I may have actually led to some of them bugging their parents to get a PlayStation. But my prior experience before this with 3D, like complete 3D games, obviously were like Doom, Star Fox, some 3DO titles that were like super jank, like Crash and Burn. But this felt like such a step up, and really graphically, especially with its like hyper Neo Japan style color palette and everything being so bright and large and animated, and everything, even the way you move, when you look down and you move, you see your little rabbit feet shuffle. It's just everything. The atmosphere is so, even though it's just a silly robot rabbit game and this ridiculous plot, it really is immersive. And it's because the graphics were so like they nailed it. They nailed what they were trying to accomplish with their image. Even though the image is batshit crazy, they absolutely nailed it. And it held up. Like I was playing it and I was like, I'm so impressed that this is like one of the first titles, even though I still thought it was a launch title only because, I bought, it was one of the first 2 games I ever had with my PlayStation. But so it was a B. Ross launch title, but
certified.
It just looked leagues better than the 3D games I played before it, or even games that were trying to be 3D. I mean, if you think of like Race Driving or things like that. Mm-hmm. But, and as I stated before, the HUD really is so important in the game and it adds to the immersion. And, even with its system of showing you don't really even need the little mini map because you really can just like move a direction and it just highlights where things are. But I just think everything about the HUD and in the world environment just blends so perfectly and looks so cool first time. And it holds up graphically because it like you said, it looks like a game indie developer just dropped on Steam a week or 2 ago, and people would have been like, "This is great," It doesn't look as dated as Ballerina Toshinden, which is a rough play these days.
Yeah, I'm going to echo a lot of what you said. And now, if you haven't played this game before, does this game look simplistic? Yeah, because obviously it's an early 3D game. But once again, this is a case of the developers understanding the assignment and not trying to do too much. They stayed exactly within their limitations. They knew what they were capable of. They nailed it. They knew the extent of the experience of the system that they were working with. So yeah, I mean, do later PlayStation games look better than Jumping Flash? Yeah, of course they do. But something about early 3D games and how clean they can look, especially when they're colorful and they're bright and they're vibrant and they're happy, you know, big blue sky kind of perspective. It's really hard to beat that. There's something about early 3D titles, like they can look like shit. Don't get me wrong. I was talking about Virtua Racing before, and that I think that game looks like shit. But this game, it knew the limitations of what they could do. And so even when you had enemies that were lower polygon counts, they built them in such a way that those lower polygon counts looked like cartoonish, but so it looked appropriate. And it didn't look out of place. It matched the environment. It matched everything else that was going on. And because like you don't have a ton going on screen at any point, it just blends together. I don't remember any slowdown. Again, PS4 can't. Maybe there's some upgrades there because I'm not playing on an original console, but it's seamless. And there's such a charm to it. There's such a charm to that early look when it's done right. I really can't complain. It feels expertly crafted and very well put together for everything that they knew that they had to work with. And I know I've said that a million times. I'm like a fucking broken record at this point when it comes to looking at this in terms of how it was at that time. But even today, you could look at that and like there's a charm to it. It doesn't look like Metal Gear Solid, but you're not expecting Metal Gear Solid. You're expecting a cutesy Japanese rabbit robot game, and you're getting exactly that. And I think you would be forgiven if you thought this game came out in late 1996 or 1997, because I do really think it's at that level, and it's clean and crisp, so clean and crisp, and I really appreciate that. Shane?
I'm not entirely sure I have too much more to add to it. Honestly, I kind of agree with both of you. I really enjoy the presentation. I think especially, and I have to imagine that this was part of the thought process, but part of making a first person jumping game work well is very vibrant colors and very clear like lines of demarcation. Because if there's any sort of question about like, can I or can I not jump to that or land on it, or, you know, where am I going next or something like that, like it makes the experience infinitely worse. I think the presentation really does the game a great service. And like I said, I cannot imagine that was accidental. So, you know, props to them for doing that, because I mean, apart from that, generally speaking, you know, the more sort of stylized, very vibrant sort of presentations tend to hold up better anyway. That's not like a 100% blanket statement, but for the most part, they usually fare better. And I think that applies here. Like I have, of course, as Chris mentioned, played it in the definitely most legal way possible. But even then, I think that was a fairly close approximation to the original, and it still actually looks really good. I mean, things don't have to be complex to be aesthetically pleasing. You know, I think there is a lot to be said for its sort of like clean simplicity.
I think you really made a good point there about the demarcation in terms of, can you jump someplace or can you not? Because sometimes those jet packs, those jetpack parts, they're off the main level. There were parts where you're like, where do I go? Where do I go? But if you move around the level enough, because they knew the draw distance was limited, there would be a platform that was kind of dithered in the background if you made it to a certain point, where you're like, well, there's a platform over there. What happened if I go to that platform? Then you find out if you go to that platform, you see a bigger platform where the jetpack is. So it made good use of understanding the draw distance and also informing the player there was more in that direction if you just went off that beaten path, which is incredibly smart. Like, that's how you manage your draw distances, which again was not something that was incredibly common. I say all this because I really do think a lot of gamers take for granted just what 3D gaming was like back then. But they knew. I love the fact that they knew. I think that has been abundantly clear. I love the fact how much that they understood what they needed to get across to the player. yeah, I'm not going to shut up about it either. So there's that.
But but it's important because they had to. Like, that's the thing, is it wasn't like there was a playbook, or there wasn't, you know, a game maker engine already built for them where they just plopped in their ideas and said, okay, I made a game. Like, they were at the forefront of this, and so it was incumbent upon them to be as meticulous as possible and be like, okay, what do we have to do here? Like, does this make sense? People haven't really done this much before. We need to make sure that this isn't a confusing fucking mess. And so, you know, it was sort of like the whole necessity is the mother of invention thing. And I think that very much applies here. For the most part, I think they pulled it off very well.
Yeah. To even give more kudos to them, if you look around at the other things that you see coming out, Star Fox on the Super Nintendo, it's a Super Nintendo game, of course, but it has a lot of slowdown. So that was a little over ambitious for what they were trying to do. And if you go to Crash Bandicoot, as much as Crash Bandicoot gets a lot of accolades, I'm not trying to take anything away from Crash Bandicoot here, nor Star Fox, because I think these are both great games. Crash Bandicoot played it safe by really having a 2D control scheme. It's a 2D game, really, kind of, or a very linear game. It's the Sonic, famously known as the Sonic's ass game. That it's not a real, true 3D environment that they're putting the player into. So you always have these very safe decisions that are being made when these kind of platform games are going to true 3D, or just a lot of true 3D games. Like, even for a lot of 3D games too, they're like a lot of rail shooters, a lot of racers, very, very safe things. And this game is not playing it safe. Once again, like, even more kudos there, especially for like a lack of slowdown. I didn't experience any.
I didn't either.
Just brilliant. Let's move on to the sound presentation after just getting like gushing over the visuals here. I think we're going to kind of continue this process. B. Ross, what'd you think of the game sound?
I think that it complements the graphics perfectly. Like I stated, it's a quirky neo-Japanese, very bright, out there, off the wall game, and it incorporates a lot of, I think, of that trend at the time, which was kind of like this acid jazz, you know, thing that was becoming very popular in the mid 90s with Japanese culture. But it's funny because a lot of the levels have their theming around, obviously, their visuals, but which we didn't even really talk about in the graphics, but the levels are heavily themed, and they fit that perfectly, and the music does too. And I also felt there were so many, the overall game soundtrack kind of is diverse, but stays within that Tokyo acid jazzness. And I felt like some levels felt like Mystical Ninja level of soundtrack, and then other ones felt like Ridge Racer, you know, like it has this very upbeat, but you can just tell there's heavy Japanese influence there. The music is fantastic for that reason. It attributes to the immersion of that you are a giant robot rabbit collecting giant silly carrots and having these crazy power-ups and all this brightness, and then the sound complements it really well. The sound design's fantastic. It's amazing. You know, it'd be better than Battle-Oriented Toshinden, which I'm going to keep. It's catching strays.
Okay, no. This one's closer on that one, okay? I'm going to stand up for Toshinden there. Like, the sound in Toshinden is fantastic. Don't go besmirching its good name, whatever's left of it at this point.
Fair.
I'll give my hats off to the sound too. The music design is great. The soundtrack is fantastic. The voice work is appropriate. I like the fact that your Robbits, has a voice that's cute. Like, you pick something up and it's like stop time or break time or whatever. It's like, oh, this is a cute little thing. The voice acting too is appropriate. It's cheesy. It's not bad. It's just cheesy. I like cheesy. Cheesy's good. I'm down with cheesy. I even like bad voice acting, but I love cheesy voice acting. And that does that as well. Every sound in here is just 100% appropriate. It's so well designed. Yeah, sound design top to bottom, top notch. I love the variety of music, as you point out too, B. Ross. There's quite the variety. I can't think of a bad track. There are some tracks, like, I think, what was the level where you're in space? The one that you have those tubes you need to go down that launch you up. Like the tracks in that level are some of the best in the game right there. They're really fucking good.
That's the last level. Is it the Sky Sports track or park or something?
Yeah, second to last level. I think last or second to last
the city
level.
skirmish.
It's really good. Yeah.
That's the one that I agree. That's one of Confluent. It literally sounds like it's from the same soundtrack as Mystical Ninja on the Super Nintendo, which I have high regard for that soundtrack. So very similar.
We should name the composer. If we're giving this dude all this credit, we should, or them, or her.
Turns out it was Van Halen. That's weird. I didn't know that.
Oh, that's wild. Takeo Muratsu, who also did a lot of anime soundtracks. Oh, also did the music for Legend of Dragoon.
Oh, huh.
Wow.
Weird.
Okay. That's cool.
He's found his way into your life.
I guess so. Oh, he unfortunately passed in 2006. That sucks. Well, thank you for the music. It was great. Appreciate it, dude. That's sad. Anyway, Shane, what did you think?
Oh, great. Now I get to follow that up. Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So I guess I'm going to be the one person of the three that said that I generally, I like the soundtrack. There's a few low points for me. I don't think I have blanket praise for all of it. Some of the level tracks, in my opinion, though I think thematically they fit, they just didn't really like jive with me so much. I think the World 2 stuff is kind of iffy. On the other side, though, it's ridiculous, but it fits the vibe of this game perfectly. But I love the like the Chinatown levels where they just work in car horn beeps into the music. It's great. Yeah, no, I think overall, I really like. Well, I actually didn't have the right genre name for it, so thank you, B. Ross, for that. But the kind of like acid jazz, like bumping bass line, kind of like funky vibe that a lot of games around this time had. So no, I think it fits it pretty well. Like I said, there are a few low points for me. Some of the level tracks are kind of meh, but I think overall it does a pretty good job.
Sweet. Does anyone have anything else they want to say about any of the presentation before we move on?
We forgot that this game had full motion video, which on top of everything else, which is also new and is actually not heavily overly compressed as it was around that time period. So it was another thing to add to its praise.
It looked okay for the time. I mean, full motion video was, I would not say new.
Oh,
it did it better.
Sega CD full motion video is a gallery of garbage, but
Sega Saturn was out by this point. They were doing stuff. So was Namco is doing it with Ridge Racer and Tekken. Tekken came out just around the same time as this, so I would say this is better than Tekken's, honestly. Tekken 1's full motion video is something you need to check out if you haven't seen it. It's amazing. It's great. You'll love
Nightmare
it.
Fuel.
I think the reason that just getting to the full motion video here and how they did the CG, I think because they did go the anime route and again, didn't want to do anything too complicated, served to their benefit majorly. They played it simple. Again, it's just smart design top to bottom. But let's move into the patron pontifications. We don't have a lot this week, but we do have some. If you want to provide your pontification, all you got to do is just head on over to our Patreon, which you can join for just as little as $1 a month. Yeah, just right. That's it. $1. And I'll post something. I actually didn't post a Jumping Flash one. Sorry. But I did post it in the Discord. So join our Discord because that's free. Anyone can do that. But join our Patreon, become part of the Discord, see it in the Patreon, and provide your thoughts. And we will read it on this show. So let's get right into this. In fact, you know what? B. Ross, how about you? You read the first one.
So this first one comes from my boy Van Fernal, my co-host of Super Garbage Day, said, fun fact, Jumping Flash contains the Guinness World Record for being the first platformer in true 3D, which upon some of my research, I found out some people argue that, but it's okay. I consider it too.
It's the only one that matters. It's the one that matters in our heart. Alternative facts. All right. Next is, speaking of alt, it's Alt. Alt says, oh, fuck yeah. I love this game. I felt like this game was a childhood fever dream until I rediscovered it when I hacked my PSP to originally play Tomba 2 and found this as well. It's such a am I on LSD type of game on the level of Katamari Damacy for me. Well, maybe it's because the power-up you can find gives you rainbow vision in an already weird-ass world. Yes, it does. The controls are surprisingly really good. When you think of a first-person game from back then on a console, you probably imagine some jank-ass shit. Nah, they were ahead of the curve with this one, with the panning camera when you jump, and I believe you can strafe as well. I don't remember being able to strafe.
I couldn't, but you might.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
It's a simple game, and I don't believe it's very long, which is always a plus at this point in my life, as is mine. Not having to fine-tune your aim is basically the only way this game works out so well, especially compared to a lot of other attempts on the PS1. I believe this game is also developed by the same folks who made Ghost in the Shell PS1 title, though I've not played that one yet. And yes, it is made by the same folks who made Ghost in the Shell for the PlayStation 1. But thank you all. Those are some great comments, and I think he hits the nail on the head in a lot of respects.
All right, next up, we have Storm Beagle of the Retrotopia podcast, who says, "Whoa, check out that long box." That's what he said. Thank you, Storm.
Also black.
Do you want to read this one or you want me to take it?
I mean, oh, okay. I thought you were talking to me.
I thought you were talking to Shane. This next one comes from Lethco from the Afterglow podcast. Says, didn't play it till it was included on the PS Classic. It was fun, and for a launch title, I think it would have been a good buy. But by the time I had PlayStation, it had already been overshadowed by tons of other hits in its library. Honestly, the PS1 probably has more games in its library that were good I missed out on than most others just due to the sheer huge number of titles released on it. But I'd also argue that it was a 3D console before 3D was ready, which is why I overlooked many games on it and stuck mostly to RPGs. He thought it was a launch title too.
Yeah, there's some hot takes there, but thank you, Lethco, for providing your thoughts there, and we'll roll right into our thoughts about whether or not we think this game holds up today. As is tradition, like we start the show, myself and Shane will give our thoughts and give the guest the final word on whether or not we think this game holds up to modern standards or whether or not we just would like to play it today. I'm going to start this one off and just kind of keep it short as I can, which is normally not very short, and just say, I if you listen to this episode, if that wasn't abundantly clear and you're questioning that at all, I don't think you've listened to it. This game has definitely stood the test of time. It's great. It's on your PS4. It's on your PS5 as well, because that's probably the system you should be playing right now if you're using a modern console. It's on your PS3 too. It's on everything but the PS2 at this point, and you should probably play it. It's great fun. It's short. It's not going to take up much of your time, and it's inexpensive if you buy it digitally. I know, boo, digital, but this is a great time. And if especially if you're a Sony head, if you're into the history of PlayStation, which it's been around long enough that there's definitely people that would be the case for. You need to play Jumping Flash. It's definitely an archivist dream. It's everything. It is what really Sony was for a long time for many people, and it feels PlayStation. It is so PlayStation, and it needs to be played if you're a PS head. So that's my thoughts. Definitely does. Shane,
I didn't really think about it, but that's actually a great way to put it. Like, this game is like extremely PlayStation in like all of the best ways, I think. Yeah, I will keep it uncharacteristically brief and just say yes, it's a lot of fun. It's honestly better than I think it has any right to be given the circumstances and time period, et cetera, but man, they really pulled it off, and they pulled it off well. And you know me, I like a good succinct game experience, and getting from start to finish in like under 2 hours is A-okay by me. So yeah, 100% definitely holds up.
All right, B. Ross, take us home.
I think it does hold up, but I do think a lot of people I don't think it's going to appeal to everybody, to be honest. It does for its time period.
I think that's fair too.
Its control scheme, its pacing, its graphics looked better than what was to come, actually, and really impressive for being one of the first, the quasi launch title, as I guess I'll just call it. It's great, but also it's kind of hindered because it is exceptionally easy. I think a lot of people, unless they want to experience some of the history and see like an early title that really went above and beyond in regards to like 3D platforming, it's worth their time. But I think a lot of people would be turned off by its kind of like childlike visuals and the fact that its difficulty it's so low that some people might think it's just kind of a baby game in a sense. But I think it's an experience to go through because it is short. It is very easy. It does have a lot of unlockables and things of that nature. I can't see everybody wanting to or enjoying it. And I really wouldn't say that it's like a hard recommend for me, but I do know that I'm very biased because I just like my history with it and then replaying it. It held up. Absolutely. And I'm just going to go with like a warm yeah, because a lot of games I've revisited, I'm like, oh my God, this is so much worse than I imagined. And even just like right out the first 5 minutes, I'm like, I cannot get used to these controls. Oh my God, there's so much clipping. This graphics are, this game doesn't do that at all. And if anything, like you said, it fits perfectly into the realm of polygon style. And it like you said, could have came out last week independently and we would have been like, wow, what a cool throwback. It works if they didn't even change anything in it. So, but keep in mind, it is a extremely easy game. So that might turn some people off.
I endorse baby games. I have no shame. I love the baby games. Bring on the baby games.
We're playing one right now. So it's in our next episode.
Just so you know, when I say Legend of Dragoon drained me, I love the baby game. It's a breath of fresh air. But yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong, B. Ross. And I'm glad that I'm glad you brought that up because I don't think we talked about how easy the game was while we were talking about the gameplay. We kind of skipped right over that. That's kind of a blind spot. You're right. This game is extraordinarily easy. And that could be a flaw. I didn't find it that way because I just wanted a game that I could beat and feel good about. So that was kind of where I'm coming from. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. I am so happy you came on our show. I love your show. You know, I'd like to throw shit at you over there on Super Garbage Day, and I enjoy it. Whatever can frustrate you the most, that's what I try to do whenever I have the opportunity to do so. But it doesn't work. I mean, hey, if it's there, it's there. But if not, I want people to know where they can listen to your show because I think it is a fantastic and well-produced product. Let people know where they can find you over there on the internet.
Well, thank you so much. And it is a pleasure to have you throw any type of game, whether it be absolute garbage or a hidden gem, because that's the name of our game. Our show can be found pretty much if you put Super Garbage Day in Google, it's everywhere. But primarily, we have a link tree. It's the way, link tr.ee/Super Garbage Day. You'll get all the links you need to our YouTube channel. I stream under Charlie Coleslaw on Twitch just to hang out. We usually play the games that are picked. Everything is random in our show. We don't choose anything. It's actually all community based. We spin a gigantic wheel. Whatever lands, we have to give attention to enough to review. And it's a lot of fun. And we've done a lot of the games you've put on there. And hopefully some more in the future because you've been putting some bangers in our pools. So if you want to check us out, literally just put Super Garbage Day in Google and you'll find us and some kind of like obscure Ohio garbage company. But I guess shout out to them too.
They're working hard.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I suppose that means it's my turn to do some shilling as I am obligated to do. So first and foremost,
You say want.
no,
I just said want.
no, you already did it. You have co-opted that phrase.
Fuck.
It's gone now. Yeah.
It's mine now?
Yeah.
It's mine now.
What do you mean? It's been yours for like years at this point.
I assumed it was ours, Shane. It's our want.
Oh, how very communist of you. So anyway, this is not a visual medium. You can't see him squinting at me over Discord. So, hey, if you stuck with us this far, then thank you. We hope you enjoyed your stay. And if you would like to get some more sweet RHP action delivered directly to your ear canals, it is a simple thing to do. We too have the thing that we have been told is for old men only, and that is a link tree. I feel like I probably am just vindicating that viewpoint because I honestly don't know what the alternative is. So I guess they're right. I don't know. But go to Linktree, linktr.ee/retro hangover. All the stuff's there, all the goodies. If you would decide to support the show in a more financial, concrete sort of fashion, we never expect that, but we certainly appreciate it. And if you do, and you head to the Patreon for as little as $1 American dollarino, you too can get a whole bevy of bonus content. There's just so much. We actually don't know what to do with it all. It's actually becoming a problem. But so before we figure that out, go check it out, please. We also have a merch store if you want to represent the show in that way. Go to conventions and have people ask you what the hell your shirt means. That's a great way to do it. And then we've got our socials and our Twitch and YouTube. So if you want to see us play games, mostly poorly, occasionally we play something that we're like kind of decent at and it's surprising. And then Chris does a lot of RPGs because he does love those. But Chris,
never heard of him.
And yeah, RPG. I barely knew her. I don't know. That's not how that goes. Anything else you want to add?
I just want to say, I thought when you're going to say the site for old people, you're going to say OnlyFans again. If you think we should do an OnlyFans, come on our Discord and let us know. Actually, no, I'm going to regret that.
Yeah, don't.
Go to our Twitch streams and let us know.
Only hairs.
Oh, even better.
Yes. And that can be found at twitch.tv/retrohangover. We're also streaming over on YouTube. But, if you want to more actively participate in the chat, that's where we're going to be. And you can let us know how you want to see our buttholes. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, but you can let us know that. And you know what? I might appreciate it. I'm not going to humor you, but I might appreciate the sentiment. And that's over at twitch.tv/retrohangover. So swing on by at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays and let me know that you want to see my butthole. I promise it won't be as hairy as my face because that'd be rather difficult unless I shave my face.
Or as hairy as B. Ross's butthole, apparently.
Yeah,
to be fair, you don't know though. It could be Bear. You don't know. It's Schrodinger's butthole. That's what I'm going with.
Apparently, it's an Italian butthole, which means it comes with meatballs.
Yeah, oh God.
It's like getting a Brillo pad stuck in your sink.
We promise you a bear on our streams.
Yeah, check out the stream. I pop in there all the time, and Chris just told me they're going to have a new command. If you put in ! Jumping flash, he will jump in the air and flash you his balls.
Yes. It'd be very hard to see.
We are speed running getting banned. Come check it out.
Anyway, that's all I got. So, we're at twitch.tv.
Okay, great.
Oh, yeah. I got a mug from Bones Coffee. It's fantastic. These mugs fun. So that advertisement at the end of the show is legit.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Wait, which one did you get?
I got the Frog's Breath one.
Oh, right. Yeah, you told me that. Very nice. Yeah, I like my Indiana Jones one.
It's very nice.
Mine comes tomorrow. I use you guys' coupon code. What is that coupon code again?
There's no coupon code, but I mean, Super Pod Saga, friends of the show.
My plug sucked.
It did kind of suck because we don't have a coupon code. But if you go to rhp.show/bones, https rhp.show/bones, you can go there. And if you type in Super Pod Saga, I think you get 20% off if you use that once. So, hey, look, we're all helping each other out. Bones Coffee.
Yeah, there you go. And then you're going to get to hear it plugged again at the end of the show. So there you go.
Pay us more, Bones.
Yay. Anyway.
Look what we're doing for you. See, now I've gotten rid of my communist side, Shane. Aha!
Jesus Christ. Let me finish this show, Chris. Good Lord. All right. So, with all of that being said and me not having an opportunity to make an old person OnlyFans, that's actually Lemon Party joke because that doesn't exist anymore. Until next time.
Play with your Jump On Me, Robbit joysticks.
Shane here with a quick message. You know, the one rule Chris and I have always gone by regarding advertisements is this. It has to be something we use and can personally vouch for. If you know me, you know I love coffee. And Bones Coffee Company has been my go-to for home brewing for quite some time now. Their small batch beans come in an impressive variety of flavors like Mint Invaders from Chocolate Space, or Electric Unicorn, which I swear tastes exactly like Fruity Pebbles. And the best part? No added sugar or calories involved, just natural flavors infused right into the beans themselves. Build your own sample pack of 5 4-ounce bags to find out which flavors speak to you, or jump in head first with full 12-ounce bags. They've even got K-Cups. Step up your homebrew game with Bones Coffee by visiting bit.ly/RHPBones. That's bit.ly/RHPBONES.